I think giving up on difficult obstacles has to be a fairly universal experience in gaming. While not everyone finds the same titles difficult, everyone can relate to the experience of hitting a metaphorical, or even literal, wall and finding themselves totally unable to proceed. Well, I got to thinking about my personal experiences with such setbacks and realized I didn't just have a list of difficult games to share. No, instead I'd written a chronicle of how those difficult games affected me at various points in my life. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy my list of the 5 RPGs that made me throw up my hands and yell, "Frogurt this!" because they were hard. Look, Enchanted Arms isn't the best RPG I've ever played. In fact, whether it's any good is highly debatable. But I liked it, damn it. Collecting my golems, traversing the world, doing the things. Okay, maybe I don't actually remember playing it. But I do remember the final boss run. In fact, it's all I remember, aside from the pizza man and my gay bestie. So yes, I remember the trauma, the disappointment, forever seared into my brain. I was defeated repeatedly by the stupid hard final boss run, which, while annoying, wouldn't have been game-breaking if I could just turn back around and level my troops. But no, I'd been betrayed by the save point just beyond the event horizon. With the exit barred, I had no choice but to throw my inept team at boss after boss, completely unable to heal between matches. So, of course I gave up. Anyone would under the circumstances. It's not my fault. The game until this point had been easy enough. I felt confident in my abilities to triumph over the ice bitch on her frozen throne.
Bring on the next opponent. I'll beat him black and...
But no, each encounter whittled away my health, energy, and consumable resources. I was ill-prepared for a gauntlet of attrition, and so I fell, robbed of the elation of victory. I retired my save file, never to pick it up again. When I was 14, I spent the summer with my brother at his apartment in Minneapolis. During the day he worked, and so to keep his latchkey sister preoccupied, he let me rent Breath of Fire 3. I was drawn to the luscious 2D sprite work and promise of an epic role-playing adventure. See, it's right there on the box. Naturally, I fell in love. It's a gorgeous game with a gripping narrative chock full of humor and naked dragon boys. When I got home, I begged my parents for a PlayStation of my own, and come my 15th birthday, an agonizing 6 months later, I got the system and the game and began my adventure anew. I bested Baleo and Sunder, broke Mikba, squeaked by the Dragon Lord, and heck, I even solved the desert maze. But the final confrontation with the goddess Miria proved beyond my skills. Oh boy, don't that just beat all. I've attempted to reload the save and salvage my progress, but death appears inevitable. I suspect I'll have to start over and really focus on my character's master skills and level progression. I should be mad, but honestly, Breath of Fire 3 was such a cherished experience for me that I kind of welcome any excuse to revisit it. Before Twitter and YouTube, I was a forum rat. And I couldn't tell you which forum it was on or even who made the bet, but some dude argued that there was no possible way that I could beat all the Phantasy Star games on the Phantasy Star GBA collection cart. He was so adamant that he was even going to send me a game if I proved him wrong. Maybe. He possibly could have been lying, but for whatever reason I didn't think he was. Might have known him. Again, I don't really remember, and it doesn't matter. But game or no game, I was down for the challenge. Why? I don't know, my track record for beating games is abysmal. But there was a free RPG on the line, and damn it, I like free stuff. So I jumped into the original Phantasy Star gung-ho to prove this motherfucker wrong and fought my way to the icy planet Dazorus, which is like the end of the game. But you land on the desolate planet and immediately have to navigate a series of dungeon mazes just to enter the one town and then tackle another series of dungeons to reach the real destination dungeon, and that was it. I got lost. I ran in circles. And I was bombarded with trapped chests and dragons, and I just noped out right there. The game had been one confusing, twisty map, one after another, and that particular gauntlet at that particular point in my adventure was the final straw for me. The good news is, however, that I remember absolutely nothing about the experience, to the point that when I began to write this up, I actually thought it was Phantasy Star 2 that had tripped me up. But nope, it was the first game. I distinctively remembered climbing mountains in my all-terrain space tank. Thankfully, however, Phantasy Star 1 has since been ported to the Switch with in-game mapping. So if I were to ever take a mulligan, that is absolutely the version I'm going to go with. My struggles with impossibly difficult video game adventures began at a relatively young age. I was 6 years old when I first tried my hand at Ultima Exodus for the NES. It was my brother's cartridge, and he was patient enough to show his baby sister the ropes. The initial grind was painless. Graham had taught me how to run around with a couple of magic wielders, repelling goblins and undeading the undead. With the enemies dropping at my feet in bunches, I felt invincible. That is, until I attempted to level up my party. See, enemies level with the player, and the next tier of gruesome minions were totally immune to my cheap shots. That's okay. My fierce beating was a lesson, well learned. And again, my brother showed me how to effectively upgrade my party's equipment. A tedious cycle of making new recruits, selling off all their starter gear, and buying the real heroes the best supplies money can buy. Now properly armed for battle, I was besting baddies with relative ease. All progressed smoothly until I reached the icy shores of Ambrosia. Suddenly the rules were out the window, and it didn't matter what level my party was at. Demons were gunning for my ass. The idea was, of course, that I would wander around in this winter forest maze and stumble on shrines, which, for an exorbitant fee, I could boost my attributes. But I was no match for the legions of ass-hungry demons, and the required upgrades were beyond my pay grade. This is where the game just ceased to be fun. Even my brother was at a loss for how to advance, so I quit and tried my hand at Zelda instead. In retrospect, my Alundra journey is a bit sad. Back in 2007, I got into my head to try my hand at YouTube video game reviews. Crazy notion. Who the hell would want to watch me make those awful things? Anyway, I bought a new MacBook, and along with it, a $75 capture device. My debut project was to be Alundra, a game I had fallen in love with for its Zelda-like gameplay and nostalgic Shining Force aesthetic. My flawless plan had one minor snag. Alundra is hard. Just like notoriously cruel. Seriously, what is this shit? Did no one bother to playtest this? What the fuck am I even supposed to be doing here? I was only a few dungeons in before I was thoroughly beaten down by the game's relentless brutality and obtuse puzzle solutions. And I shelved both it and my prospective career right there. I was so dejected by the experience that I wouldn't even attempt YouTube in earnest for another 9 years. So that's that, I suppose. Have I played harder games than these 5? Possibly. Some games I even finished despite the steep difficulty spike. Someday I really ought to stream Silent Hill Shattered Memories. Watching me lose my absolute shit over Waggle Zombies should be good for a laugh. But the games in this list were the most memorable for me, for whatever reasons. I'm curious though, what games did you find challenging? Did you give up? Would you be willing to start over and give them a second chance? Did you brush your teeth this morning? Really ought to do that twice a day, you know. Now's a good time for it if you haven't. Anyway, I think that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back with more content eventually.